by fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hogsty. My name's Sean. The whole crew's here. That includes Mr. Steve Thomas, Alex Zeese, and Jamal Forrest. We are so excited to be coming back at you today, doing everything we can not to get into off-season mode and stay focused on these games for you. But guys, it's the Redskins on top today, and we're all really, really excited about that, right?
I am.
Yeah. I mean, we won by 5 points, which, back in the 19 teens when a touchdown was only 3 points, that would have been more than a touchdown win.
Close only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades. A win is a win is a win, and that's it.
Sure.
That's right.
I'll take it.
Couldn't agree more.
I'll take it any way we can get it. The Redskins got to win. A 500 season is still in play, and that makes me happy.
Sure.
Yeah. And Jamal, are you as numb to the wins at this point as you are to the losses with the season out of reach here?
Yeah, I mean, ain't nothing changed. I'm still numb. I mean, I watch the stands every week, or every chance I get, which is I try to make it every week. So I mean, yeah, it's good to see them win, but it ain't really nothing special. ain't no stakes on the line for us.
I'm right there with you, my man. All right, well, let's talk some stats. We'll obviously talk a little bit more about what this win really means, I guess, towards the end of the episode, maybe. But, Steve, tell us what happened specifically.
All right. Stats-wise, Kirk Cousins, 18 for 26, 196 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers this time, only 1 sack, 116.8 rating. Samaje Perine had a typical Samaje Perine day. That is to say, 14 carries, 37 yards, 2.6 yards per attempt. That is a very definition of jag. Capri Bibbs, we saw signs of life from Capri Bibbs for the first time.
Indeed.
2 carries, 6 yards. LaShawn Daniels got a carry, 1 carry, 2 yards. Josh Jackson had 1 carry for negative 14 yards. Jamison Crowder was the leading receiver, 5 receptions, 55 yards. Capri Bibbs, again, 4 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Congrats.
That's where the magic happened, not on the ground.
Yep. Samaje had 2 receptions, 29 yards. Ryan Grant, 2 for 20. Vernon Davis had 2 for 18. And, of course, a big fumble. We'll get to that. Josh Jackson, 2 for 16. Niles Paul, 1 for 11. On the Cardinals side, Blaine Gabbert, 16 for 41. He was horrible today.
Oh, my goodness.
Boo.
Wait, I didn't say that again. 16 for 41?
That is correct,
39%.
my friend. Yeah.
Is this
39%.
like Division III football?
No, they're better
Wow.
than that in Division III.
Wow.
No, it's Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, it's Blaine Gabbert. Remember, we compared him to a
I was
cold
just about to
chicken
say that.
sandwich.
I was about to say that. Y'all compared them to what again? That sounds more accurate than what
A cold chicken sandwich from Burger King.
Yeah.
And frankly,
right.
I
Not
think
fried.
I think he didn't even rise to that level today. But point is, he was 16 or 41 for 189 yards, 1 interception, 5 sacks, quarterback rating of 43.6. Kerwin Williams was leading rusher, 17 for 61. Receptions-wise, Larry Fitzgerald led the way, 5 receptions, 60 yards. J.J. Nelson, 1 for 46. And it goes down from there, and that is offense.
Wow.
Yeah, tale of two teams a little bit there. Tale of two quarterback ratings, at least. You can certainly say that when comparing the two.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned the 16 for 41. I had no idea it was that bad for Gabbert. That kind of takes the whole, and this was the talk of the game. If you were watching it and you were listening, they talked the entire game how the Redskins' offense wasn't on the field in the first half. How the other team, the Cardinals. They are a bunch of Jags, and they had, 47 plays in the first half?
Yeah.
But if your quarterback only completes 16 passes the entire game, 47 plays is meaningless.
Well,
yeah.
One thing I will say, because I did forget this, Nicholas did drop the go-ahead touchdown at the end of the game,
Yeah,
too.
Sure did.
He did.
But it doesn't erase the fact that, yes, I mean, they had a few drops, but that's still over 20 passes incompleted from the offense
Right.
and the quarterback. So
25.
regardless of a few drops. Well, look, I'm glad you had the exact number because I suck in math. But anyway, the amount of drops doesn't really overlook the fact that he was inaccurate today and should have had more than one interception. A few of them. I don't think. Did we get him once? We didn't get him once, did we?
No,
Oh yeah, we did.
We
We
got
did
him
in the red
once. We
zone.
got him.
Smith
got
got
him
that
once.
great interception in the red zone.
And we fumbled it away the next play. I got it.
Right.
So yeah, that one. So I mean, we should have had him more than once.
Yeah, listen, Gabbert was absolutely horrible. He was throwing high. He was extremely inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
A better quarterback, I think, would have easily won this game, quite frankly. And yes, the Cardinals had a whole bunch of drops, but including, as Jamal pointed out, the game-winning drop.
Yeah. Well, they had a couple where they came up short at the goal line, it seemed like. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I mean, it wasn't over for them until very late in the game. That's, I think, the thing you have to remember. Steve, remind me again, what's the two total yards for each team, and then also what was their scoring breakdown? I forget. It was like 3 field goals or...
Well, yeah, the Cardinals
had
kicked 5 field goals.
5 field goals.
If you
Five
want
field goals,
total
okay.
yardage, the Cardinals gained a total of 286 yards, and the Redskins gained a total of 87 plus 31, so that is 200 and what is that?
20?
No,
220-ish?
227. So the
good
Cardinals
enough.
actually outgained us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing that people are going to have to keep in mind here and remember. Just pointing that out changes their perspective completely. And once again, we let them hang around for a long time.
We should have lost.
We should have
Yeah,
lost.
exactly.
They should have whooped our ass.
A better
exactly.
team would have beaten the Redskins today.
Yeah, I mean,
no question.
A better offensive team, because that defense definitely kept the Cardinals in the game. And think about this is a small little nugget. It's not something important, but look, it is important. Like in the future, like when games actually matter for both teams. But look, the Redskins got the ball back with 3 minutes left because of the fact that Blaine Gabbert it was a wild play. He fumbled the ball mid play, and they knocked him out of field goal range.
Right.
We get the ball back, and it takes them 3 plays to get us off the field in an important situation, for the Cardinals. And they have an opportunity to win the game on another drive, and they still have a timeout left. So I'm just pointing that out to say, yes, but a better team definitely would have beat us, and it also shows how great that defense is and how much of a struggle it is for us offensively to move the ball. Because just in general, and today it was a struggle as well. So I'm just saying, like, they definitely have a good defense that represented.
And that was without Carlos Dansby in the game for a big chunk of the game too.
Yeah.
By the way,
All it took was 3 plays for them to get off the field. That's all it took.
And let's not even... I don't want to dwell on that one series too much, obviously, but that series, you at the very least could have gotten it down to the 2-minute warning, and you didn't even get it down to the 2-minute warning.
Nope. They ran it on. They threw it on second.
Run, pass, run, and you missed on the pass, so you ended up... They got it with 2:10 back.
Well, my opinion as to a big reason why this happens is I didn't read this key stat. The Redskins rushed for a total of 31 yards as a team.
Right.
Yeah.
The Redskins just don't run the ball up to the standards of a National Football League team. They are just they are. This is the worst rushing team I think I've ever seen in the NFL. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't remember a worse rushing team than the 2017 Redskins. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing and shameful and god awful. They don't have a running back that's worthy. Their offensive line is terrible in run blocking, and that's why we keep getting run totals of less than 50 yards.
Right.
If they had a run game and it had a running back that could eat up yardage and clock, this whole bit at the end of the the whole last couple of drives wouldn't have happened.
Sure. I don't think anyone would debate that. And even if you take out the Dodson, minus 14-yard run, they're still terrible. It's still awful after
it's
that.
It's awful.
So there's no excuse for it, really big picture, because, your starters went down. They weren't any good anyway. You went into the entire season without a real running back.
Is Samaje Perine a bust? Is it too early to call him a bust?
Yes.
Well, I mean, certainly.
Is it yes, it's too early, or
I'm saying yes, it's too early.
Okay, yeah.
But it also,
it's too early, but he probably is.
But I was going to also say he's a 4th round pick, and he's in a role where you don't really expect him to be in the future. Like you don't expect him to be that in the future. So it's like, is he really a bust, or is he someone who, if we can get a number 1 running back, he can play the backup role effectively? Like
I wasn't agreeing with my own statement. It was really just a
you was
question.
just asking a question here.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Jamal's saying. I'm not a Samaje fan in particular, but I have a hard time calling any 4th round player a bust after 14 games into the season. I don't think he's going to be a number 1 back. I don't know if he's even going to be a competent back. But if we could get a real running back, he could be an outstanding number 2 back that can come in and spell him every once in a while. I think that's Samaje's future.
Sure. I think no one ever really thought about him until he was drafted, right?
No, there's a whole bunch of a whole crowd of people out there that were at least very pro Samaje, because he tore up the college football. The dude was awesome at Oklahoma. I mean, he put Joe Mixon on the
son or whatever his name is.
He put
Capri Bibbs.
Well, Samaje put Joe Mixon on the bench.
Yeah.
For a
Bibbs
time.
They were saying it on the broadcast. Bibbs had like a 30 touchdown season at one point.
Yeah, only him and 2 other people did.
Yeah.
He has a 1 touchdown season now.
Yeah.
This is all fair to say. I think the point that we have to come away with is the fact that when you account for teams that they were facing this year at times, this has really been the worst rushing team in the league all year.
Yeah.
Even when they've done well, when you account for the situation that they're in, they have been the worst team. So I think that's a fair asterisk to put next to all of these guys that have played.
And a big part of
it's hard to assess.
Big part of his offensive line has been terrible in run blocking. It's not all Samaje's fault. I mean,
exactly, and you had uncertainty at the receiver position. Obviously, guys got benched or put away that we were going for at first. I mean, this team's been a mess from the start.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. What I should say, what's not bad is, if we can, and I hate saying just keep saying if, but like if we really can nag a number 1 receiver, our backfield is really not in bad shape, especially with Chris Thompson coming back next year. You got Samaje in a defined. You got both them two in a defined role. If you can find a dynamic running back, then it lightens the load on the offensive line. Even though the offensive line needs to get better as a whole in the run game, it lightens the load a little bit. So it's not a bad situation if we can find that back.
That's really Samaje's problem. He's not dynamic. He's never going to be dynamic. He's a good bowling ball. He can hit the holes if they're there and get some yards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's not dynamic.
One that was called back, which sucks. But
the one his best one was called back, but he's never going to be dynamic, and that's really what we need.
Right, and the run that was called back, that's kind of what you want him to do on big plays.
Yeah,
23 yards where he's beating up guys.
He's a guy He's a guy who can really wear you down. If you allow him, if we get in that type of situation, who can wear you down in the second half. Exactly. The 4th quarter, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, it's hard to wear a defense down if you only have 16 plays in the first half.
Yeah.
But, we can also say that too.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you guys some general questions about potentially winning out this year and what that means and the value of doing that. But what else do we want to say on defense for now? I mean, I'm sorry, on offense. Acknowledging that there wasn't much of it early in the game, I guess. What else do you want to call out?
I want to call out Josh Doxson, who is our big number 1 draft pick. I mean, the man had 4 targets today.
Yeah.
4, and that's it. Even realizing that he is a rookie, essentially, you need to see better from a guy who's a first-round draft pick. You don't draft a wide receiver in the first round who is a dynamic athlete and see him be average on the field. Yeah. I was trying to defend him for the longest time, but it's getting to the point where I think he needs to show more than he has. Or else I don't know what his future is going to be.
So, damn,
I think his future right now looks like you let him play it out still. It's not like you're going to cut him. But,
no, I mean, number 1, you can't cut him.
You can cut anybody in theory.
And you can cut anybody, but I mean, you can't cut a first-round draft pick and not lose money. He's not exactly cuttable. But my point is, maybe I'm being overly harsh on him, but he's shown flashes of ability here and there, but by and large, he has not lived up to the promise, for me, at least thus far.
I mean, I would argue his best play of the day was when he got held. So
probably, yeah.
The most productive one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a small sample size, Steve, and the team is so poor all around him that I think, definitely I'm reserving my judgment of Josh Doctson so much. Totally hear where you're coming from, but he's been a bright spot in a lot of games this year. And if anything, I'm leaving this, I'm heading to the end of this season feeling pretty high on him. Okay. So maybe I'm wrong, but, one of you guys feel free to correct me.
Yeah, I don't really have a beef with him. It essentially is, his first year, so it's not too bad. But at the same time, I think the thing is with Josh is the fact that you do have to be patient in his development. It's not like he's I can understand Steve's frustration. I'll put it that way, but at the same time, you just got to understand that he's still in a process of developing. He's not even close to reaching, what they can expect him to be for this offense. So, it's going to take some time. And I'm prepared for that. But a lot of pressure is on him because now he can finally play. And a lot of people have been talking about how, this is a guy who he was great in college. And now that he's finally playing, they're not seeing that on the field. So they draw the conclusion that he's not playing because of such and such, or he's not getting those type of opportunities. It doesn't matter. You just got to give him some more time, and we'll find something out next year for sure.
You do. I don't mean to be overly negative on him, but he just hasn't shown much really on the field. And I realize it takes wide receivers maybe more than any other position, kind of historically, to a couple years to really develop, and I realize that, but all the same, in my view, he's behind the curve that I would have expected. Let me say it like that.
Yeah, I'd initially kind of slated him to be in that 700 to 800 yards range, and he's not even there.
That would have been good, right?
Yeah,
and he's not getting the targets either, is the thing, No. So that shows that either he's just not open, Kirk doesn't trust him, he's something, but he's not even getting the targets.
Well, the open thing is the big question with him. I've had other people point this out to me, and I kind of pay attention to it after enough people bitch about it. But he really does not make any separation for himself in plays.
Right.
And that, I know that's not an easy thing to do if you're not a speed guy, and he's not a pure speed guy. But, you never see him juke a guy and get, that separation that way. Or, do it with his hands. That's what he's probably best at, but he's still not good at it. So, that's my observation.
And that's the thing. I agree 100%. And it's not necessarily a knock on him per se. It's more so understanding the type of player that he is. Like last week, he got in front of Casey Hayward on a deep pass, but they got tangled up and there was no pass interference. And the reason why there was no pass interference is because Casey Hayward was making a play on the football. He had eyes on the football. He did not intentionally trip Josh Doctson up. And both of them were going for the football. Therefore, no flag. Therefore, Casey Hayward, he plays good defense. He was really in his hip. He was in his hip pocket. But the whole important thing about that is the fact that he's not going to give you that type of separation where it's 2 or 3 yards behind Casey Hayward's behind Josh Doctson. That's not going to happen. And you just got to understand the type of person he is. He's going to be the type of guy who gives you the jump ball ability, where that is his separation. He can jump higher than that defender, and he can make a spectacular catch. However, you just got to understand, if you throw to him, it's going to be a contested pass, and it's nothing wrong with that at all. You just got to know how to use Josh Doctson, and if you can trust him or not. He has to continue to develop that with whatever quarterback that's going to be here in the future.
You know who Josh Doctson reminds me of is Alvin Harper of the Super Bowl era Cowboys of the late 90s. Sure. Harper was the deep ball guy, the spectacular catch guy, the end zone 50-50 ball guy, and then they had, I hate to compare this to Dallas Cowboys, but they had the number one receiver in Irvin on the other side. That's kind of who Josh Doctson sort of reminds me of. And if that analogy is accurate, that would tell me that what we really need is somebody else to be the big number one receiver.
Yep. I kind of, that's where I am at right now.
Yeah, so. I don't necessarily disagree. What else on offense, guys? Want to talk about losing a fumble here? What else do you want to call out?
Actually, Vernon Davis has been a complete and utter no-show for, what, a month now?
Yeah, it's
Been a while.
Weird. I didn't see that coming.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me because he became a no-show the second that Chris Thompson got hurt. And as soon as Chris Thompson was taken away from this offense, everybody was like, well, who's the next biggest threat on this offense? It's Davis. It makes a lot of sense to kind of focus your defensive effort on covering him at that
that's
point.
true. That's a good point.
Especially
That's
on the
probably
inside.
That's probably a
So-
very valid point. You
Yeah.
know?
You know, I mean, like
Definitely
to me,
a big
it made
factor,
perfect
at
sense
least.
that Davis got knocked out in terms of usage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
certainly couldn't have helped. I mean, it exacerbated the problem at least. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
no, it's all right. I mean, you know, certainly, like you said, that certainly didn't help. I mean, Davis is getting old. It's a team without weapons. He was probably the next best weapon we had, and
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
him
it's
or
not-
Crowder. You know, who else are you going to cover?
yeah, and that's probably the reason. But I mean, we just can't count on Vernon Davis going forward. I mean, the man is what, 34 years old now, 33.
33.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Like, he's been open a few times too, but I think I shouldn't say sad, but I think one of the issues is, like Kirk and Vernon, and I'll just say because it's not always a bad throw or Vernon couldn't get there, but just the chemistry has been lacking for whatever reason this past month. That's one of the issues. However, at the same time, Vernon has disappeared, and that's never really a good thing. It doesn't matter how much speed you have and how good you are after the catch, even though you don't know how to run in a straight line. That's just something that's bothersome and worrisome. But it also it reminds you that we need another tight end. Jordan Reed is unreliable.
we're just another tight end, another running back, and another number one wide receiver away.
And
We need
potentially,
another offense.
Yeah.
and
That's it.
potentially
Yeah,
a quarterback
and
and potentially a guard and
Yeah.
a bunch of.
All those two.
If we just replace 11 guys on offense, this team could be
Yeah, and
just
start
killer.
over.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well,
Sure,
it
what
is
I
almost
trade,
Christmas.
Steve, 5
Come
is
get 'em.
all.
all right, well, let's flip over then to the other side of the ball, unless you guys have anything else to add offensively. We can just talk for a few minutes about it. Things surely looked better there, right?
Well, I
They did.
mean, Blaine Gabbert didn't do well.
Right. I
question
guess
is-
the big question is there. Where's the
it-
line?
Well, the question is did Blaine Gabbert not do well because his name is Blaine Gabbert, or is it
Right.
something that the Redskins defense did? Now,
I mean, as much as I like to make fun of the stupid freaking name that is Blaine Gabbert, which just sounds like a kid who got beat up a lot, I don't think it's just his name that made him a bad quarterback.
look, the Redskins got a ton of pressure on him for most of the
did.
game.
Yep.
Most of the game. I mean, how many sacks did we only had 4 sacks, but they had a lot of pressure on him. They had a lot of quarterback hits on him.
What did they have? 4 sacks?
4 sacks. The
Yeah.
sacks were Gillette, 2 by Lanier, and 1 by Preston Smith, which was at the
Right.
beginning game, the sack fumble.
Well, no. The sack fumble was a sack by Lanier and picked up by Smith.
No, that
Smith
was,
had a sack later.
I thought Smith had the sack,
Did
but
he?
okay.
No.
Real quick,
Hold on, I'm
tackle
looking
totals.
right now.
Yeah,
Zach
Anthony
Vigil.
had to. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, Anthony
Sorry
had
about
to.
that.
A real quick sack. Defensive stats: Zach Vigil 8 tackles, Kendall Fuller 8, Martrell Spate 8, Deshager Everett 6, Josh Norman 6. And then again, the 4 sacks were 2 by Lanier, 1 by Smith, and then the 1 by Gillette. So
Yeah.
that was defense.
But by the way, Norman kind of had one of his better games that we haven't seen in a while. So I want to, give him a shout out there. That was, I've kind of called him out for struggling the last 4 weeks ever since he got the rib injury. He's been struggling. This is the first one where he kind of looked like his old self.
Yeah, and it looked like Larry Fitzgerald was going to go crazy there for a while too.
It did.
Yeah.
But they kind of clamped down.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 catches for 60 yards there, 10 targets. Yeah, I mean, you said it in the preview episode, Steve. We knew he was going to get that many.
He's going to
you
get
know.
his catches. It's
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
the targets. He's one of the most targeted receivers in the NFL.
right.
And
Yeah,
and
which
as
is
he
kinda
should
what you
be. I
gotta
mean,
do.
he's a first ballot Hall of Fame receiver, so
Right.
that's not surprising. Look, let's talk about defensive line, because again, they got a ton of pressure. Junior Gillette got a lot of playing time, more than I've noticed. We don't have the play totals yet, but I think Gillette probably got the most plays that he's had all season, would be my guess.
Yeah, he and Smith were at least 50-50.
Yeah,
If
and
not more.
Lanier got 3 batted balls today? Was it? I
Yeah.
counted
Yeah,
counted
something
3.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's so tall, and frankly, one of them might have been a game-saving tip, down by the goal line too. So, it was certainly his best game. Preston Smith looked good, at least in the first half. He kind of disappeared in the second half. But generally speaking, the Redskins' defensive line on pass plays looked like they were doing well and getting good push against the Cardinals' offensive line.
They did, and I mean, Gabbert had a couple scrambles, to kind of make up for it. But, outside of that, if you're forcing someone like him to run for first downs rather than throw, that's an advantage to the defense generally, because you're not worried about him picking up 60-plus yards on a scramble. He might get a first down. But
And somebody pointed out to me on Twitter that Gabbert's more of a runner than I was giving him credit for, or more mobile, than I was giving him credit for. And that's fair enough. But still, I don't think Gabbert's the type of guy you should be letting him scramble too much.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of pointing out.
We're not Blaine Gabbert experts on the Hogsty
No.
over here. Sorry to any
I mean,
listeners
you
that might have
basically
expected
timed them
that.
down perfectly to a T before the show, so I mean, you're very modest.
Yeah.
Look, Burger King is never going to be our sponsor after that
No.
reference, but that's okay.
No.
So
would
I
rather
guess-
get Wendy's anyway.
Well, let's not burn any bridges now, Alex. Come on, that's just bad business.
I just like a Baconator. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I guess they had some moderate success running the ball against us. I guess we covered that a little bit in statistics.
Yep.
No any one person necessarily tore us up, but by committee there, they had a little bit of success. So, I don't know if there's anything you can really take from that or extrapolate from that, but it is what it is.
I mean, given
100
how
and some
much
yards.
the defense was on the field, I give them all the credit in the world that we only let up 15 points. Because they were out there almost the entire game.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there were 34 carries, which is a lot. And they only gained 141 yards, which is 4.1 yards per attempt. I didn't think Kerwin Williams was going to go crazy. He didn't. He only averaged 3.6 yards per attempt. So the Redskins did okay in the run game, considering how many, like you said, how many plays the Cardinals had, how much the defense was on the field. It could have been one of those situations where if the Cardinals had grabbed the lead, we would have seen our defensive line get worn down by just run after run after run. And thankfully that didn't happen, whether due to the incompetence of Blaine Gabbert or something the Redskins did.
Yeah,
Well, let's
who
say
knows?
50-50, just be generous.
Fair enough.
Yeah, let's share the credit. Okay, well, I mean, what can you really say? What else can you guys really say about it? I mean, anything else?
I think
what
we gotta
stands
talk
out to you?
about what the hell happened on special teams in this game.
It's just awful.
'Cause-
No, it's
Good God.
we
I
were
mean,
saying this a little bit too last
Listen,
week. It's
we've
so
seen
true.
bad special teams. This rivals that Kansas City slaughtering we had. What was that? 6 years ago now.
They're a different
Talking
type of
about
bad, though.
2013?
Yeah.
The snow game.
Yeah, the Redskins are
sweet game,
different. This
Yeah.
year, the Redskins special teams are a different type of bad than was you're talking about 2013.
Yeah.
In
They're
2000,
not, that was a historically bad.
well,
special
but see,
teams
they're
team.
still awful this year, but they're not giving up touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Like they did in 2013. They're just showing complete incompetence in every way.
It's zero effort is what I'm seeing.
It's
And
zero
that's
talent is
Well,
what it is.
Look. You don't need a ton of talent. You need people who have a little bit of heart. And the fact that Bashaud Breeland waves off a punt and starts walking towards his own sideline, meanwhile it rolls from the 26 to the 6-yard line. That's
Well,
a
that
problem.
and they gave up the longest onside kick in NFL history because nobody felt like jumping on the ball.
Right.
I
mean, there were
Go ahead, no. I want to hear
3,
Jamal's
4
frustration with that.
catastrophic failures on special teams this game.
See, you trying to laugh at me, man? That's what you trying to
No, I'm totally with you. I want to hear it.
No, it's because I think, and I thought about it. It's because as I saw it, it was just like this is just the most Redskins play ever because of the fact that how the game was going to that point. The Redskins offense was on the field for I don't even think it was 10 minutes. They were on the field in the first half.
6.5 minutes.
Six exact. I was about to say six and a half minutes to be exact. It was on the field the first half. We get the ball in the start of the second half because of the fresh start. For a fact you were able to move the ball in the first half because you had a shortened field. It wasn't much of an issue for you to go long distances and shoot clock off. You scored 14 points in 16 plays, so it wasn't a huge issue. However, to kick the ball off, it's short first, by the way. And to assume that the ball, because of where it was, it may roll back to you, and to not even be ready for it just in case it rolls forward. Like you should have. In hindsight, is always better, but at the same time, you should never assume in a situation like that, as high as it went and how much time the kickoff team had time to get down there. Why would you just let it bounce to you? You need to get under that and move forward from there. However, you didn't. You wanted to roll to you, and it rolled in more towards the kickoff team, and they recovered it. So now you look stupid.
It was a weird kick. I don't think anyone's going to deny that was weird how the ball moved.
It was highly preventable, though.
It was. There was who was it? 87. Is that Martrell Spade? No, that's not Spade. It's
you talking about 84? Now it's ball.
No. It was Sprinkle. Sprinkle was standing right next to the ball when it landed at the 15-yard line.
Like, for God's sakes, fall on it.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't notice.
You don't even have to pick it up and run. Just at least fall on it. At least we keep the ball.
Right.
But look, we pointed this out on the preview.
Discipline right there.
We pointed this out on the problem. Yeah, it is. We pointed this out on the preview, and I've been saying in the written preview a couple weeks. This team is the worst punt return defense team in the league. They're 32nd and last, and they are 30th in punt returns with 5 yards per return. The longest punt return of the year for the Redskins has been 18 yards, and they're in the bottom. They're in the bottom 10. Bottom 6 or 7 in kickoff returns. So, I mean, overall, they haven't had, aside from the Dallas touchdown, they haven't given up touchdowns, but they've been god-awful. If you want somebody...
averages, which
just terrible. Yeah. And, if anybody's rooting for somebody to be fired, it needs to be Ben Kotwica. And I realize...
I was not on board with you until recently, but I'm all in on it's him. It's got to be him.
Well, and all these injuries, the injury parade has really affected special teams. I realize that because we have no more depth because all the depth guys and half the starters are on IR now. But still, there's no excuse for being the worst in the NFL. He just hasn't done his job. Somebody has to get blamed, and I blame him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not going to fight you on it.
I mean, we're actually almost lucky we won this game because there was a kick. And I don't blame Hopkins for this. He was on IR up until yesterday. He almost missed a chip shot at one point because he's been rusty.
Yeah, and he had one bad kickoff.
Yeah, he did have one bad kickoff. Not terrible. Like, I don't consider it a terrible kickoff unless it, goes for a touchdown or goes out of bounds.
It just wasn't a bad kick. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't good. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, welcome back, Fair Dustin, enough. By the way. We love you, Dustin. Friend of the show, Dustin Hopkins.
We're certainly not saying anything this year is
I don't
your
put it
fault.
on him. He's
exactly.
been on IR
this isn't on you, Dustin.
No.
We wouldn't say it. Okay, sorry. You got another
Well,
thought
I wanted to veer us in a
or
totally different direction, Sean, so go ahead. And then
I kind of wanted to do the same thing. Go ahead. What you got?
I wanted to talk about the hatred in the fan base for Bruce Allen and the feeling that somehow if Bruce Allen dropped off the face of the earth, all of a sudden every problem would be fixed. Because that's the sense I get from the fan base.
That's just looking for a scapegoat.
Well, that's exactly my point, and people out there need to understand, number one, Allen isn't going anywhere, but number two, you guys are just scapegoating him. The players have to play, and the coaches have to coach. Yeah, and last I checked, Bruce Allen isn't doing either. It's not going to be the panacea, to all the problems if all of a sudden Bruce Allen is gone. And you guys who hate him that much aren't accepting the truth, which is this team doesn't have enough talent.
Well, exactly. With the state of the team right now, if anyone's saying there's one thing that is the issue with this team, then they don't know what they're talking about. There's a lot of things that are feedback looping and making this a bad team.
I don't think there's ever going to be one issue with this team until we really see a turnaround, and I don't know if we'll ever see that. But I'll just say this. There was one story that I loved about Scott McCloughan back when he was our GM, and that was the whole thing with him and Rashad Breeland. When Breeland had like a meltdown at practice, and McCloughan was the guy who was willing to go and talk to the cornerback and say, hey, you can't act like that. Go back out there and do your job. And how Bruce had a problem with a GM going in giving some accountability to a player.
This was part of the big story when he was let go. This was part of the big thing that came out. I remember that.
Now, listen, you can have that mentality as I don't want certain people to be hands-on, but it's a wrong mentality.
Right.
The way
not how
for
a team
successful
functions.
organizations to work is the 100% everyone holds everyone else accountable mentality. This isn't the 1950s where, no, you stay in your lane, you stay in your lane. This is 21st century thinking at this point.
Well, yeah, and Bruce also was saying not to go reach out to Breland, and he wasn't doing it himself, too.
Right.
So that was the other problem, is
Right.
no one was doing it. You know,
Right.
there's no accountability or oversight on what's going on with this team. I agree completely.
I mean, I'm not trying to defend him. You know, he's not done.
Said everyone who defended Bruce Allen ever.
Well, I'm really not. I mean, I'm not defending him in football
Yeah.
decisions. I'm defending him in business decisions. I think he's a pretty good team president. All my point is here that if you guys think Bruce Allen's going to disappear and the next day everything's going to be better, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
no,
know,
I
and
don't
I
think
think if
anyone-
you guys are, I think people do think that, and I think that if you know. I think that's all some fans out there focus on. Everything is fire Bruce Allen, fire Bruce Allen, fire Bruce Allen. There's so many
the
other
only reason
problems.
people focus on that, Steve, is because they know they can't fire the owner.
Yeah,
That's
and you
it.
start and you start looking for common threads. What's
Yep.
been the common thread? Nothing except for Bruce and Dan. That's it.
I-
Everyone else has turned over and churned. You look for common threads. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's where it
I'm
comes from.
becoming fairly, and I'm working on criteria for my draft pick analysis. I'm thinking about it and it's starting to take shape. If I had to guess about the results, I'm going to guess that Bruce's drafts have probably been just as good as McLuhan's drafts were. That's going to be my guess. You know,
I don't know.
Go ahead,
I don't
Jamal.
know.
I think the thing is, and when it comes to Bruce, that one of the issues, and I think one of the bigger issues, is the fact that Bruce has been around for 7 years.
8 years,
now,
I think,
first,
now, yeah.
okay,
Going on
um,
8.
okay, so basically going on 8 years, and the issue with this, and this is with everything, and when it comes to Redskins, people believe anything. For example, the way that Scott McLuhan, his motto, like period, whether he made the right or wrong decisions, Scott McLuhan had a model that he followed.
Mhm.
And once that became public to the fan base, what do you think the fan base started doing? Oh man, I'm not this. They started changing their views according to how Scott McLuhan lined his up in terms of how he drafts, how he uses the agency, how he does all these type of other things. They line their thoughts and how they would do things if they had that type of control. How like they basically line it up like Scott. So my point of even bringing that up is the fact that when it comes to certain things, for example, business decisions, it's not really that important. And the only way they see certain things is if it's either working or it's not. And the way that Bruce Allen has done things, how they treated people is what I guess how he treated players, how he treated people in the front office, things like that. It's just not going to work out in terms of the fan base. They're not. I don't know if I lost anybody, but it's just not going to work because of the fact that how he operates.
It's a toxic kind of relationship now between fans and Bruce Allen, is what you're kind of saying.
Thank you. I don't know why it took me so long to spit that out.
That's what I do, man. I just dumb it
Yeah,
down for
I'm
other
glad
people.
you did
That's
that
what I do.
because I was trying. I had some points, and at the same point when I started talking about Scott, it kind of got lost in my own head.
Sean,
So-
there's
so
nothing
you
more
helped me out.
nothing more valuable than a person who can understand smart and make it dumb.
Hey, man, I'm
Be
a
it
filter
sports
for
or
smart.
politics, that is a very good skill.
So yeah,
Hey,
with
fair
that
enough.
being said, just basically that is the way. It's just to a point where it comes that he's been here long enough. We know how he operates. Skins fans, they think that they know how to be a stable organization based on how they see other people, but at the same time they're still used to the same way that Dan Snyder operates. Is they'll give you 4 years, they'll give you 3 years, but they're not going to give you any type of longevity. And that's all I'm really trying to get at. They're not like, it doesn't matter if Bruce is doing anything right or wrong on the business side. It doesn't matter. He's been here long enough. He needs to go, and that's how some people feel with Jay Gruden at this point too. Everybody needs to go.
I mean, and I understand it to an extent on all of them, but here's what it comes down to for me with any front office guy, any coach. I need to understand what kind of team you want to build at some point. And we're 8 years into Bruce Allen. I have no idea what Bruce Allen's core philosophy is when it comes to football. What is it?
Yeah,
I don't think Bruce
ask me.
knows.
Yeah, don't ask me.
I mean,
and
I can tell you what Scott McCloughan's was. It was you build the O-line, you build the D-line, and you focus on defense, and eventually you get a quarterback who maybe win you a Super Bowl.
But here's the thing.
That's
is
his
that
philosophy.
The team president doesn't need to have a philosophy. It's the GM that needs to have a philosophy. And the fact that Bruce has elected himself to be the de facto GM is the cause of the
Doesn't
problem.
make sense.
Then he needs a philosophy. The second whoever is your de facto GM or real GM needs to have a philosophy. I can tell you Jay's philosophy. I could probably figure out Doug Williams' philosophy if you give me a little bit of time to do some research. He just hasn't verbalized it yet, But I'm sure it's something to do with quarterback play and, that kind of thing, because that's where he comes from.
Doug's kind of dropped off the face of the earth
Right.
a little bit this year. But look, I mean, I think Bruce has done two really bad things. Number one, he's handled Kirk Cousins in about as bad a way as humanly possible.
Yeah, sure.
And then the second thing is the way that Scott McCloughan was dismissed was shameful. It was embarrassing, and I blame Bruce Allen for that. It just awful, and we've talked about that ad nauseum on this show.
Right.
I do blame Bruce for all those rumors and whatnot. At a bare minimum, he could have squashed it, and he didn't. And my personal belief is that stuff was leaked intentionally in order to make Scott McCloughan look bad. And that, if true, is...
I believe with let's say we don't have proof. We all believe that, though.
What's that? You guys talked over each other.
Oh, you go ahead, Alex.
I just said we all believe that, but none of us have 100% proof.
No, nobody's
anything.
ever going to have any proof of that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to have any proof of that. It may come out in this arbitration, but we're not going to really know what goes on in the arbitration.
God, I want to be a fly on the wall in that arbitration.
Give me a hidden microphone and let me listen. I'd love it. But for anybody who's wondering, by the way, the arbitration proceeding is not public. Whatever testimony happens, there's not going to be a public transcript of it. We will probably hear about the results, but that's most likely about it. So it's sort of like a much to do about nothing.
I'm just
going to
follow
fans.
Jessica's Twitter handle, and we'll find out something.
We'll find out from there. All right, well, let's. Should we even bring it back to this game? Do you guys want to do game balls at this point
to
I
before
want
we
game
sign off?
balls. We don't win. We should do game balls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Well, then you go ahead and do it first, then, Alex, if you're so gung-ho about it.
Fine, I will, Sean.
All right, let's hear it then. God.
All right,
Give me some of your thoughts.
let's start with the easy one. That's going to be defense for me, and I think Tony Lanier II. I'm going to give him a game ball he has as many sacks as he has Anthony Lanier's in his family in this game.
Tony.
Yeah.
love it.
Tony. And then he got,
Tony.
what was that, 3 swats we said? And he had a couple
3
other
balls.
plays where he, got a couple tackles. Great game all around for a guy who most people overlooked, but he's been a great addition. I think he's a future on this line. So he gets my defensive game ball. I want to give my offensive game ball to Preston Smith for the turnovers, but I think that would break our
No, you
Not
can't
play
right?
offense.
You
yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
You can't put 2 defensive. Can't do that.
All right, so I'm going to go with old Jamison Crowder, who had a couple big catches because not many people did much on offense, but when you need a big play, I think 3 or 4 times he showed up for us today. He got a touchdown. I think he had a couple first downs for big yards. So Crowder gets my offensive ball.
Okay. All right. Maya will go next if
Okay.
you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let's go offense. You know what? I'm going to give it to Capri Bibbs, man. Because
Capri,
4
liquid
receptions
cool.
on 4 targets, including that great touchdown and like the triple, play action play or at least double play action play, whatever it was. Looked great. Signs of life. I love it. Obviously he didn't really do much on the ground, but no one is at this point, so I'm not going to knock him for it. I'll give it to you, Capri. And then defensively, let's just go with Preston Smith because he certainly looked great, at least for a point in this game. And I totally love the Lanier situation, but yeah, I'm going to go with Preston Smith.
I'm not going to knock Preston Smith.
Exactly.
Alex,
you.
you took my offensive game ball, but I'm going to give it to Capri Bibbs anyway because he had to play the game, in my opinion. On the touchdown play, it's his first, as far as I know, his first NFL touchdown. So good job, Capri.
Second. They said he had one like 2 years ago or something.
Well, I don't know, but he's the first Redskins one at a minimum.
Yeah.
And on defense, I'm going to give it to Junior Gillette. Junior Gillette hadn't had a game ball this year. He's particularly in the last couple games, he's played better. He had a sack today. He had some pressures. And, if nothing else, maybe this will help him re-sign with the Redskins because I think they need him. And we didn't mention this before, but I think Junior Gillette needs to be starting. I think he needs to start over Preston Smith for the rest of the year. Just my opinion.
All right, good call. Good call.
Yeah, how about that? I can't argue that. It's a fair argument, so I don't have a rebuttal for it. In terms of me, I guess I'm going Lanier defensively. Junior Gillette's a good one, but it's between Gillette, Lanier. That's about it, honestly. In terms and maybe DeShazer Everett, but I didn't really see him. He didn't necessarily make great plays, but he held his own in the secondary for the most part. But either way, Lanier. Lanier is my guy defensively. Offensively, just for the sake of variety, I really like. If you had to ask me, I really like Crowder. However, I'm just gonna go Ty Nsekhe. Simply, he gave up one sack, but he's going against every single pass, every single drop back. He's going against Chandler Jones, even though he did get some help. So I would say, just to be fair, then I'd say the left side of the offensive line. But more so Ty Nsekhe, when he had his one-on-one battle, he held his own for the most part, and I won't take that away from him. He had a good performance for the most part, and I'll give it to him. So Ty Nsekhe, but I would have chosen Jamison Crowder if it wasn't for me just trying to be different.
Look, Ty had a good game. The one sack he gave up, he didn't get his hands up and get his hands on the defender properly, and that was what the cause of the sack was. But you're right. He's going against Chandler Jones. He did well. Ty could be a starter on a lot of teams.
Even in that one sack that we're talking about, that was a long time that he still held Jones in check.
Yeah.
That was Kirk could have gotten it to the first or second read. He was going to his third or fourth at that point.
And Ty's going to be a free agent again this year, so
I think he's still an RFA.
He is, but he's still a free agent. He's still under the Redskins' control, but they'll have to make efforts to keep him. Hopefully, they will.
Yeah.
Well, we will be keeping our eye on that situation, and obviously the many other players on this team that are also in similar situations. So, if we don't have anything else, we'll cut it off there, and we will be back, obviously, for a preview episode. Who we got next week, guys? Denver? My boys.
Denver on Christmas Eve.
We got I was going to say, okay, and that's going to be in Washington. Okay, so awesome. So we will obviously be coming out.
6 people in the stadium. It'll be one of those types games.
Hey, Sean, would you have went to the game if it was in Colorado?
I don't know. That's the kind of the thing. I have very few opportunities to see the Redskins live anymore, so I might have tried. But honestly, I think it's kind of merciful that they're doing it in Washington, so I don't even have that option.
Hey, man, so the game is only I think it was as cheap as $6 here, so I'm pretty sure it would have been around the same price in Denver.
Yeah.
Wow, $6.
Yeah, it's cheap as $6. I know the 200 section is around only like $60 maybe for 200s. So,
cheap entertainment.
Yeah, there you go. It hardly classifies as even entertainment though anymore, Steve. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll be back for the preview episode, and we will see you folks next time right here on the Hog Style. Take care.